can store all of the inferences, and here's a list of the tools that they actually support. So we've got Burp Suite, we've got Nexpose and Nessus, Nikto, Nmap, and the W3AF, the Z-Attack proxy. So there's a number of different tools that it supports the output from, and we can take that output and we can put it into Dratus, and we've got one place that we can store all of the information, which makes correlation easier. When you're doing a complex scan of a network or a number of systems, you really want a place where you can correlate all of your data and be able to see what you've done and what you still need to do. Now, the tools themselves have output, but when you're doing a lot of manual testing to go along with those tools, as you will, you need a place to store your notes. Dratus is a great place for doing that. Dratus creates a Ruby on Rails server, and it's an application that's written in Ruby on Rails. So you can see this is the Dratus package. I've downloaded the tarball, I've extracted it, and this is what's in there. And if we go into the server directory, you can see there's a number of different directories and files in there. You can see we've got a rake file and a gem file. Those go along with being a Ruby on Rails application. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to run this script reset. And what reset's going to do is it's going to make sure that we've got all of the dependencies that Dratus actually needs to run. So you can see there's a number of Ruby gems or run this script reset. And what reset's going to do is it's going to make sure that we've got all of the dependencies that Dratus actually needs to run. So you can see there's a number of Ruby gems or Ruby packages that we don't have installed. You can see at the top here it says the following gems are missing. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to download and install them. It's going to go grab all of the gems. It's going to do the installation. And once it does the installation, we can actually get Dratus up and running. And at that point, we'll take a look at using some notes and importing data with Dratus. So right now, I'm just going to let all of this run and get all of the dependencies installed. And then coming up, we'll take a look at doing notes and importing data. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at using notes with Dratus. Now you can see here, I'm actually done with the installation of Dratus. And what I want to do now is I actually want to start it up. So I'm going to start it up with the start shell script. That's actually going to start up Ruby on Rails. You can see here, we've got Ruby on Rails. It's installed a certificate now. And at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to go over here to my web browser, and I want to go to localhost, but I want to go to port 3004. And here we've actually got a case where I've got to add an exception because of the self-signed certificate here. So I'm going to confirm my security exception. It's going to continue on. Here we've actually got the wizard that's going to get us going here. And what I need to do is I need to set up a password. And I want to create a new project. I'm not going to remember the password here. And now I actually have to create a username. The password was associated with the server. So I'm going to log in here with the username that I am creating at this point. And you can see it's a pretty blank setup here. Now, what I've got here is I've got a branch. You can see I've got the ability to add branches. I've got a branch that's just called Dratus Framework. And that's really where there are some documents to help you get going. What I want to do is actually want to delete that node because I don't need the Dratus Framework and its documentation. What I do want to do, though, is I want to add a branch, and I'm going to call it Pentest1. Now I've got this new branch where I can store documentation. Inside that branch, I'm going to add a note. And now I click Add Note, brings me to the note editor, and now I'm going to make a note about tasks to do. So I've talked about the things that I can import into Dratus and keep reports from different tools. This also works pretty well as a way to organize the tasks that are involved with the testing effort that you're doing. So 1, I want to scan a network. 2, I want to check for vulnerabilities. 3, I want to exploit vulnerabilities, and so on. Now I can save that, and you can see the note shows up here. And I've got the default category. You can see the note categories here. And if I bring up the different note categories, you would see the different things that showed up in each of those categories. What I want to do is add a category here, and I'm going to say scan results. And I'm going to use this category when I start importing things from Nessus or from Nmap as an example. So if I click on this here, it's going to show me the note. So this shows the note list in this pane here, and then over here it actually shows me the note. So that's how you would add notes with Dratus, and some things you could actually use notes for. And coming up next, we'll take a look at importing data and the different types of scans we can import using Dratus. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about importing data into Dratus. There are a number of different types of tools that Dratus can work with, and one of them is Nessus. Now, what I'm going to import here are results from a Nessus scan, and I'm going to import from File. You can see the menu item up here, and I'm actually going to use the new importer. And I'm going to leave this alone for a second. This is the log where I actually started the Dratus server. You can see the log file here, and it's just scrolling along here. It's kind of doing a tail -f. And one of the reasons I want to show you that is if we happen to run into a case where the upload causes problems or...
Gdje ću ja ti saopštam? Gdje ću ja ti saopštam? Nisi ti moj njel, ti si doktor. A ja portir. Ja, tebi problem, ma ja. Ti si isto više visoka kategorija za mnom.
Fails for some reason. You can always go over to the log here and get some additional information. What I want to do, though, is I actually want to do a Nessus upload. And I'm going to browse. I'm going to go to my home directory here. And now I'm going to do this Nessus file here. And now what's happening is the file's being imported. And you can see that we've queued a job to import the Nessus file into the server. And I could go back over here to the log, and you can see that we ran the uploader, and we've done some work on the file. If I come back over here to the Dratus framework, I've got uploaded files here as a category now. And it looks like the upload manager is still working. We haven't actually put the uploaded files in at this point. We can go back to the upload manager and we can keep watching, and at some point the file will actually get imported into the Dratus framework. In the meantime, what I want to do is I want to take a look at doing the other types of files. We're just going to take a look at the importer and take a look at the different file types that we could import. We've got burps, we've got Nexpose, we've got Nessus, Nikto, Nmap. If I were to write the Nmap output to a file, I could actually import the Nmap results. We've got OpenVAS, Retina, SureCheck, Typhon, Here's ZAP, which is the Z-Attack proxy, which is the proxy-based scanner and web vulnerability tool by OWASP. And here's W3AF. And we'll take a look at W3AF in later lessons, as well as some of these other tools. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you the different plugins that are available that give you the ability to install or upload a number of different file types or outputs from these different tools so that we can put them into Dratus and help be able to categorize and organize all of that different information here. So this is how you would actually import data into Dratus. And the data would be available in Dratus to be able to look at and be able to do things with so that you can help organize and be able to see what you're doing with the pen test that you're involved with. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about installing plugins in Chrome. Now, Google Chrome has a framework to be able to install plugins to extend its capability. Part of this actually came out of the need to have the browser run applications because in Google's Chrome OS, the only interface you actually have is Google Chrome. It's the browser that you interact with all the time, and so in order to be able to have applications, the browser itself needed to be able to support executing those applications. Now, it does have a somewhat restricted model in terms of its ability to engage and interact with different components of the browser or the operating system. But there are extensions that are supported in Chrome, and we're going to take a look at how to install those plugins or extensions. And that's because there are a number of really useful extensions that you can install in Chrome that will help you do your web application testing. So you can see right here as an example, I've got Firebug Lite for Google Chrome. Firebug is a plugin that allows you to interact with a web page in a different way that gives you more detailed insight into how the page is put together and how it actually works. So Firebug is a useful plugin to have. So we're going to go off to the Chrome Web Store here. I actually went from extensions, I clicked Get More Extensions, takes me over to the Google Web Store, and you can see there's a number of different types of plugins that we've got available here. And I want to do some searching here. So one of the things I want to do, just for giggles, is we're going to search security. And you can see there's a security analyzer is the very first thing that pops up. It's an extension to inspect the security aspects of a site's HTTP headers, its cookies, and other key security settings. We've also got Web Securify, which is a web security testing technology, and it actually runs inside the browser. So you can see there's a number of other plugins that are available here. We could also do something like looking at XSS for cross-site scripting. Here we actually have a plugin that is a complete cross-site scripting reversing scanner tool, and in order to add it, all I have to do is click Add to Chrome. It's going to add the plugin, and it should give us a little icon up here, which is how we're going to interact with it. So you can see XSS Raise has been added to Chrome. So we can also add a number of other plugins as well. And we could do something like check for SQL injection. And again, we get Web Securify up here. We get Drupal for Chrome, which gives us some debugging information about Drupal. And we've got a number of other plugins here which don't really have anything to do with SQL injection. So we're going to skip those. There are tools that you may want to be able to, for example, do base64 decoding. Often when you're interacting with a web server, you may get data that's been base64 encoded. So you may want to have something like a base64 decoder right here. So this right here decodes base64 strings. You highlight the string and right-click, and it brings it up. So there are a number of plugins that actually work with Chrome and you can install those, make use of them, extend your browser to be able to do some of the work for you, and it saves you going to different websites and doing a lot of typing. It's really not that it's doing the work for you. What it's doing is it's saving you time so that you can spend your time really thinking about the best way to approach doing the attacks against the web server. So rather than doing a lot of typing, bringing up different web applications, you can just right-click and you can get the option to, for example, do a base64 decode. So that's how you would install extensions to Google Chrome. As it turns out, though, as I said, Chrome actually has a fairly restricted extension environment, and Firefox is another web browser that you may be familiar with, has a pretty extensive library of plugins that we can use, and its environment for developing these plugins is much broader, in part because it's less secure. It doesn't have the restrictions that Chrome does. And so we're going to take a look at plugins in Firefox and how you would go about installing plugins in Firefox coming up next.